Well, look who's back. Look who's back. It's the Bleacher Preacher podcast. We got the NBA boys back doing their thing. It's Jonathan here with Rob. Rob, what's
What,
up, man?
what up? It's been a while. It's been
It's been a little bit.
a couple of months, I want to say, since we recorded NBA.
I think our last episode was like Thanksgiving-ish, but instead of doing a spiel about why we got to catch up on things, we just want to get into the now, talk about what's been going on in the NBA and the world of basketball. And if we touch on some other things at the end, that's just how we'll do things. So let's just get started. It's Saturday, January 19th. James Harden is in the middle of one of the best scoring stretches we've seen in NBA history. Not since Wilt Chamberlain have we seen scoring outputs like this. Rob, James Harden right now, is he the MVP?
From what Houston started, like they were 14th at the West at one point after like 2-3 weeks in the season. Now they're up above 500. They're sixth. They're 25-19. They're I think 2.5 games behind the number 4 seed. So they're 2.5 games behind home field. You kind of have to, with Chris Paul hurt, Clint Capella now hurt, Eric Gordon missed multiple games, the Melo experiment failing, and he's just dragging this team to victories and scoring half their points. Like Giannis has done a lot of work. Giannis was my front runner, but what Harden's done is put him up there to top. I don't think it's sustainable. I still think Giannis at the end of the season is going to win MVP. But if the season ended right now, I'm going with James Harden.
I think I'm going to have to respectfully disagree because I think the stretch James Harden is putting on right now, I think it's going to be enough to sway MVP voters because we all expected Giannis to make this leap this year. We want him to see him go from borderline all-star superstar to, top 10 in the NBA as far as talent. So as far as James Harden goes, not only has he carried the Rockets out of mediocrity into a playoff position, this was a team I think we were last talking about, being one of the biggest letdowns as far as season-wise because they brought back CP3. They, re-signed pretty much the core of their team outside of, like you said, bringing in the Melo experiment, which did end up failing. So if it's not for James Harden, if you swap him out for a middle-tier shooting guard right now, the Rockets are essentially they're a borderline basement dweller. So I look at the effect of what James Harden has had on the Rockets, not only getting them back into contention, but he's putting out historical numbers right now. And I don't know when he cools down, assuming that law of averages does kick in, he's going to go, come back down to earth here pretty soon. We just don't know when it's going to happen because after this night, that was another, what was it, 40, 50 plus again?
48.
Yeah, 48. So he was pushing 50 again, which again is no easy task.
Yeah,
and the Lakers look a pretty good defensive backcourt too.
Yeah, back-to-back 50-point games and then 48 tonight. That's what I kind of see happening though, is him coming back down. I don't think this is sustainable. He's not taking that many shots, but he's taking a ton of shots unassisted. It's a lot of him having to create his own shot, and I just don't think it's sustainable for him to have to score 50 a night for them to be in the game. He scored 58 against the Nets and they lost by 3. He had 48 tonight and they went to overtime and they barely won that. Like if he doesn't get 45 plus, they're not in the game. So I really don't think it's sustainable, which is why I still think at the end of the season Giannis is going to win the MVP. But like what he's doing right now is crazy. Like he's averaging 35 points a game. Like there's only like 4 or 5 people in the league that's ever averaged 35 points a game. It's Wilt, it's MJ, and it's like and it's Kobe. And then it's James Harden. Like it is crazy.
And what it's gonna kind of like really sad for me is like when James Harden does get CP3 back, and I know Capella's down for the next month or so, what's gonna change about his game? Because he's so used to right now being a volume shooter, and we banged on him in the past for being a shoot first, ask question later kind of player. Eventually he's going to have to change his game here because guys are going to start coming back. Right now they're in talks about getting Kenneth Faried. Now, granted, that's a name we haven't heard in relevance, in a couple of seasons here. But that's still a name that can contribute in some capacity. And when these guys start coming back, James is going to have to – I think he's going to have to change his game a little bit here. So, You know,
I
you
mean,
saw Giannis winning MVP. I think Harden can still, but again, he is going to come back down to earth. When? I don't know.
and he's not. It's not like he's taking a significant amount of shots. He's taking 23 shots a game. So like when Kobe had his 35 points a game, he was at like 27 field goal attempts a game, I want to say, and he was at like 6 threes a game. James Harden's averaging 13 threes a game. It's ridiculous.
And I think that's what's crazy because me and you will send like these factoids back to one another of just not only how much he's shooting, but how many threes it is as well, because that's just where he seems to knock down the best shots. It's either 3-pointers or free throws. And I think it was a couple nights ago, he got 38 points, I think, and I think it was only off of like 6 field goals or something. Something
He
along
was he was 1 of 17 from 3, and he
Yeah.
still had 38 points.
So
It doesn't make any sense.
if it's not falling from beyond the arc, just get to the line, right?
Yeah, like that's his main thing, is threes and free throws.
So the next thing I kind of want to transition to is, with as great as the Rockets have been playing, it's the team in Oakland that just scares the life out of everybody. Last night, DeMarcus Cousins returned to action against the Los Angeles Clippers, and Boogie is back with the Warriors, and we all should be afraid.
He still looked a little slow, a little out of shape, but I think that's rust that he can work off of. But the things that I saw that he can do for this offense is like it's scary. You know, there was a couple plays where he just ran down the court, sealed his man, and like that's a layup. Like that was Boogie 20 games in the season. That's a bucket. He hit, I want to say, 3 threes. I mean, he the pick and roll was really good. I seen KD hit him once. For his first dunk of the game, the first points of the game on the pick and roll. He picked for Steph a couple times. He works in this offense. Like, I don't think there's going to be a big adjustment period.
He was, and what stood out to me, he was fine, just like you said, attacking the basket and moving around. Granted, he's still going to have to work off some rust here in the next couple of weeks just to get him in game shape and everything, but it looked like a seamless fit. And a stat I saw is that the Warriors weren't getting much shooting percentage out of their center position. And Boogie's first game alone, I think he knocked down 3 or 4 3-pointers where they only had gotten 2 entire 3-point makes out of the center position in about the last 20, 25 games. So once the Warriors add that, it's just a matter of asking when the parade's going to be. Now, granted, a lot can change between now and the playoffs. So when we just Marcus Cousins on the Golden State Warriors, it's just like, what's the point anymore? Like, what do we do?
So I don't think DeMarcus Cousins makes the All-Star team. I don't think Draymond makes the All-Star team. I don't think Klay Thompson makes the All-Star team this year. So can we still say that they have 5 All-Stars in the lineup when only Curry and Durant make the All-Star team?
I think you say All-Star level or All-NBA.
5 former All-Stars, 5 current or former All-Stars, I guess.
I think that's the bias that we have with the Warriors right now is we know what they're capable of. We know their output. We know that they don't care about the regular season anymore. It's just a matter of let's get through this and then just win 16 games in, May and June and take care of business then.
Yeah, there's certain games where they do get up on when they completely steamrolled Denver. I think that was more sort of a statement game to where it's like, oh, Denver is the number 1 seed right now. We're playing in Denver, but we're still Golden State. Let's go out and let's, pedal to the metal. Let's go ahead and get some points on the board. I think they put up 140, I want to say, against Denver. Like it's ridiculous.
I think that was a vintage Curry game to where if Stephen Curry realizes he needs to go, 7 of 9 or 7 or 10 from 3, he will flip a switch and just become an absolute nightmare on the beyond the arc. So
yeah,
that's the game that reminded me he's still capable of damage.
He's hot. He's hot right now. He killed Dallas 40-something points, like 7 or 8 threes, and then he killed Denver, same thing. And he's just been shooting really, really, really big really good percentage from three for the past couple of games he's been on. Like, he's going to get into those stretches where, like the MVP year he was on the stretch. The whole year was a hot stretch, and he's still capable of just going off and demoralizing you. It's ridiculous.
And I think that's, when you say demoralizing, I think that hits it right on the head, is because a team will, like, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, the Kings were playing the Warriors at home, and it was like 108 to 104. So fairly close game, under 2 minutes. And it's just another Steph three that just makes it into another 3-possession game. And it kind of like breaks a team's will. And I don't think Steph Curry gets enough credit for what he does emotionally to teams, because those 30, 35-foot jumpers that just hit nothing but net, it's like, what do we do? We covered Clay, we covered KD. He took a low percentage, and I said that in quotation marks because nobody makes these shots with high percentage outside of Steph.
Yeah, they can go. They can go on a 10-0 run like in less than a minute, and you missed one shot. Like Steph hits a three, you miss a shot. Clay hits a three, turnover. KD hits a three. That's a 9-0 run in like less than a minute, and you just miss one shot. Like,
we would always make the joke about the third quarter Warriors, but it soon became a real thing, and now it's an expected avalanche of offense. Because at some point they flip a switch and they just put teams away with these 40, 45-point quarters, and it's hard to come back from those.
They had a 50-point quarter a couple of games ago.
It looked effort. It was was it the Denver game?
Yeah, they hit like 10 threes in a quarter. Like it's
ridiculous. This team is still waiting for Clay to fully pull it all together. I think he just had a 40-plus point game, and he only took a handful of dribbles at most.
Yeah, it was like 43 on 4 dribbles.
Yeah, Draymond's been a shell of himself here lately. If he figures it out, and then you still have, bench woes where outside Sean Livingston, Iguodala's looked a step slower this year, but it just hasn't mattered. They have everything figured out.
Iggy's not going to go until the playoffs. We'll see Iggy step up his game in the playoffs. Livingston too. Livingston, Iggy, they've been a little bit better with like Quinn Cook. Quinn Cook has provided really good minutes for them. Jordan Bell's still on the bench. Like,
there was a notion I saw saying like they would miss Patrick McCaw's contributions, but he's been an afterthought. He's been absolutely replaceable.
He's been on like 4 teams since then,
which makes no sense.
Yeah.
So with the Warriors, it's just a matter of, guys, turn a blind eye until the playoffs because we want to enjoy basketball. Let's head down to LA. LeBron's been out of action now for quite a bit of time, so we've been getting a good showcase of the Lakers' youth and the future that they think they possess. All I've really gotten from Laker Nation is everybody wants to get rid of Brandon Ingram. So what's your assessment of the Lakers' situation right now, and do they really need to make a trade, or should they just be patient?
If you're trading Brandon Ingram, you have to get a star back. I think Brandon Ingram is the person that fits the least with LeBron, I would say, which is kind of one of the reasons why, Laker Nation is frustrated with Brandon Ingram. He kind of operates the same space as LeBron. He kind of does sort of the same things that LeBron does on the basketball court, as far as, him having the ball in his hand, where he wants to go and whatnot. He's not going to have that usage rate, and he's not as good as LeBron, sure, but like he doesn't really fit with LeBron,
I think that's the biggest thing, because LeBron loves having floor spacers. That's why I think me and you touched on this last year, is when he was playing, fill-in GM, he wanted guys that could knock down shots from outside, some guys that could distribute the ball a little bit more. But Brandon Ingram is playing the same game as a LeBron would, so he's not really helping them out. And even with LeBron being out the past couple of weeks, Ingram hasn't really made the leap on a night-to-night basis. It's been mostly Kyle Kuzma and the Lonzo Ball show.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma is really good. Kyle Kuzma has
taken a leap this year.
Kyle Kuzma has taken a step forward. He still does stuff. He's still a boneheaded player, I want to say, at times. He's not he shoots it worse than you think. Like when how much he or where do you think he's at 3-point percentage wise? Like you think he'd be a 35% 3-point shooter, right?
I was
On the
going to say
amount
30s between like 32 and 35 at best.
he's at 31% on 6 attempts a game.
Well, and he's also taken a lot of the scoring burden with LeBron being out because, even if he's running with, borderline starters and going into the second unit, he sees himself as the go-to guy. So he has the right attitude I look for in a future superstar. So I do see silver linings in Kuzma's game right now, but he's going to learn not only patience with his shot, but as well as his shot selection and not necessarily have so many wasted possessions that I've seen in some Laker games. Granted, right now we're calling them the young Lakers because, that's what they are. This is a team of mostly 25 and under guys with veterans sprinkled in. And right now, a generational talent in LeBron has been out of the lineup for the past, 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, LeBron's missed 12 games. They've played 46. They are 25 and 21. Yeah, 46. LeBron has played 34. So LeBron's missed 12 games so far. What do you think they make a trade? Like I don't with LeBron being hurt, it's kind of hard seeing them go out and get some depending on when LeBron comes back. Because LeBron, there's reports that he's going to practice this week. There was reports that he was going to absolutely be back for the Golden State game, which is this Monday. And now there's I've seen reports where he might be gone until the end of February. So I don't know what LA does. Like you think you make a trade with Brandon Ingram if it gets you back somebody that's going to help the playoff push. But if LeBron is going to miss another 2-3 weeks, do you make that trade?
I personally only see Brandon Ingram leaving if they get back Bradley Beal. And that's the only person I've heard, in their name in trade talks, just because I think that's fair value for what the Lakers expect to get back and what's fair value going back to the Wizards. As far as doing that trade, I see the Lakers being in the same boat as the Celtics to where, are you making a trade for the sense of making a trade? Like, do I have to change up what players I have in my locker room to what's really going to make me better down the road? I still expect Ingram and the rest of these guys, whether it be Lonzo, whether it be Kuzma, whether it be Josh Hart, I expect these guys to continue to grow and develop over time. And I think it's been a little hindered by not having LeBron in the lineup on a nightly basis, but I still think these are guys you can work with over time. It's just, I think Laker Nation as a whole kind of got a taste of what they can be by having LeBron in the lineup. And, it does build that buzz and excitement of being a contender once again, but you got to let the kids grow up a little bit. Mind you, these guys are 21, 22. It's going to take some time. There's going to be some frustrating moments. And, you go back to Friday night's game where Lonzo fouls Russell Westbrook on a boneheaded 3-point attempt. That's something I think he learns not to even, be close to over time here. So I don't want to be the guy to, trade off a young asset before I need to. And the reason I correlate to the Celtics side of things is when you have a Jaylen Brown, you have a Terry Rozier, you have a Jason Tatum, you got to take their lumps when they actually go through them because you want them to learn from them, come back as better players. And the only way I think that comes is with game experience. It's going to come in positive and negative situations. So how much you're able to swallow as an organization, I think is going to be the difference between making that unnecessary trade and maybe making a smart investment in not only your future, but maybe trading those assets for a better asset.
So, I mean, there's Nikola Vucevic. There's a lot of not trade rumors, but there's a lot of chatter, fans and whatnot. Like Nikola Vucevic will be a godsend on the Lakers. Nikola Vucevic is averaging 38% from 3 this year. I think on 6 attempts. He's 3 attempts, 38% on 3 attempts. He would automatically be the best Laker 3-point shooter on the floor. He would gel perfectly with LeBron. Now, he doesn't offer the rim protection or something like that, but if you really need rim protection, you could probably come off with a Tyson Chandler or JaVale McGee or whatever coming off the bench. But Vuk would match perfectly with the skill set of what LeBron would want in the center: pick and roll, pick and pop, hit a 3, space the floor. I think Vuk is also a free agent after this season. I don't know if a Brandon Ingram for Nikola Vucevic would be something that you would do. I think you would probably try to maybe package in like an asset and like maybe a first round pick or a future couple seconds in a first and the KCP contract to make the contracts work. Because I don't know. Another guy that would help them that I think hasn't been really talked about is Marc Gasol and Memphis. Memphis has fallen 2 to 14 seed. They look a little out of sorts. Marc Gasol had a really good start of the season, but he's lost a little bit of pep in his step. I want to say the past month. He's also a free agent after the season too. Marc Gasol would be probably a better fit than Nikola Vucevic. Marc Gasol could defend the rim. He'll rebound. He'll hit threes as well. You know, and he might be a perfect guy to play with LA. But I don't know. Those are two guys that like. I don't think they do the home run package for Bradley Beal. No, I don't think that happens. I probably wouldn't do the home run package for Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's good. Right now, he would be my starter for the guards in the All-Star game. But I wouldn't do the home run deal. I wouldn't give up Brandon Ingram and Hart or Ingram and Lonzo or Lonzo and Hart to go get Bradley Beal. I just wouldn't do that. But Vucevic and Gasol is like somebody you could probably not part with a young talent and still get talent in return.
Well, I think I've definitely noticed in the past week is definitely a lot of positive feedback on. I'm gonna butcher this name, so you'll be the one to correct me. Is Travis what was Zubic?
Yeah, Zubac.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of positive feedback on his style of play the past couple of weeks. So I'm not saying necessarily hold on to a good week of play, because we do have a fast approaching trade deadline. It is February 7th. It's been bumped up here a little bit. So I don't know if there is going to be a panic trade, but right now the Lakers are my number one candidate to do so because there's an expectation to compete now. You know, with LeBron being there, that's just the baggage it's going to carry. I don't see that changing at all. And I don't want to see them overspend for a Bradley Beal, but I could see that happening. Like, if that breaking news story came across my Twitter feed, it wouldn't necessarily shock me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there were reports that there was two playoff bound teams, two teams pushing for the playoffs that are heavily trying to trade for Bradley Beal. I could definitely see the Lakers being one of them. I could definitely see, you know, even the Celtics being one of them. You know, like it. Bradley Beal is a really good player. He's going to help a team. Bradley Beal is since John Wall has been out, he's averaging like 30 points. Good shooter. He's 24. Good contract. You know, you're not paying for an older player. You're not paying for Jimmy Butler, where you might have to 5-year max Jimmy Butler at 29. You're paying for a 26-year-old Bradley Beal. I mean, is he going to help? Sure, but I think I'd rather have Lonzo and Hart and Ingram and Kuzma and, you know, LeBron will come back and just try to. If I'm trading that young talent, I'm going after Anthony Davis, you know, or I'm going after a free agent like Kevin Durant or something like that.
And I think that was one thing we touched on when LeBron did end up signing with the Lakers, where you knew you were going to regress because this wasn't going to be an immediate competing team, because there was still a lot of maturity from the younger guys that you had invested draft capital in. And if you don't get that marquee free agent, why kind of, you know, mortgage your future on bringing in someone like a Bradley Beal who hasn't played in a market like Los Angeles with a guy like LeBron? So why not at least work with the, you know, potential and the raw athleticism you have in the Lakers roster, invest the time in it, because it's only been a half a season with these guys. And even then, LeBron's played 12, 15 games with them.
Yeah. Like I said, I'd stay with the young guys. I'm not trading any of the young guys yet.
I'd leave it alone as well if I'm LA. So I know there's been some videos and some pictures of Rob Pelinka like kind of hovering around the Lakers tunnel, just kind of contemplating. And, you know, same thing with Magic Johnson. I would hope they leave things as it is, but you know, the NBA, they don't leave things as they need to be.
I don't think it's going to be a trade. If there comes a big shakeup, I think it goes with Walton. I think Luke Walton is it's not going to be a trade with the young players. It's going to be a coach firing, you know, because Luke Walton's not Magic's guy. He's not Pelinka's guy. He's Genie's guy. If something big happens, I would expect it to be with the coach, and I expect it to be with Luke Walton. But you know, neither here or there.
Would you? Now, I think me and you agreed on this point. Was Luke Walton set up as the fall guy in all this? Like he would be the first one to go?
Yeah, definitely. The coach is always the fall guy. It's never the play. It's easier to get a new coach than to trade half your team.
And we saw the Lakers do that, or excuse me, we saw the Cavaliers do that at the trade deadline, but the coach wasn't necessarily fired. He was on a leave.
Yeah,
Like
they sent Blatt away. They sent Blatt away. That team still made the finals without like any
no,
major change.
no, it was Tyronn Lue. David Blatt was fired.
Yeah, like Blatt was fired. Lue took over, and that team still made the finals. And it wasn't like they traded half the roster away. It's just a new coach, and
No,
it's not like Tyronn Lue was better than David Blatt either.
Well, I'm talking about when Tyronn Lue took that like 2-week absence and Larry Drew took over.
Oh yeah, that too. Like,
yeah, like it's just funny how it's like it is always that guy. Just because I mentioned them earlier, let's go over to Boston and the Celtics. An up and down season, definitely for the Celtics thus far. But it's been Kyrie making headlines as of late. The Celtics did beat the Hawks this past Saturday night, and I believe they just had beaten who did they play last night?
Or Toronto. They beat Toronto.
So they beat a decent or excuse me, a really good team, your number one seed Toronto Raptors one night ago. Then they come around and beat the last place Hawks on a back-to-back. But it's been Kyrie Irving making headlines with some very interesting interview answers. He reached out to LeBron about leadership, and then there's this now whole correlation. He's trying to open the door to go out to LA in free agency. It's like, wait, what just happened here?
Kyrie being too fake woke. That's what it is.
We had mentioned this off camera. He's pushing this leadership angle way too hard.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to be a leader, but he's doing all like the non-leader things. Like this stuff like this doesn't leak to the media. Like this is not something you come out and say. You know, it's hard that to be a leader for the young guys. It's the young guys don't know how to be a championship team when they made the Eastern Conference Finals last year and it was Game 7. You know, like he's trying too hard to be a leader. Sometimes you just aren't a leader, you know. And I know that Clubhouse doesn't have like that one guy, that one rah-rah guy. Like I don't expect Al Horford to be that guy that just like calls a team meeting and leads the team meeting. You know, you don't have that one guy there, sure, but at the same time, like Kyrie, I don't think is a leader. I think that's one of the reasons why he left Cleveland, why he left LeBron. He wanted to be a leader. He wanted to be the guy. He wanted to have his own clubhouse, and now that he has it, he sees it's not, it's not what he thought it was going to be.
No, he's coming in with the burden of title expectations. He's coming in with the burden of a roster that needs to, perform to certain expectations, and it's been mixed results thus far. So I think he's definitely feeling the blowback from not meeting those expectations. And I don't want to say he's finding excuses, but he's doing everything in his power to not necessarily direct this back to him. And this past week, Kyrie's been outstanding. Don't get me wrong. He has been absolutely out of his mind with some of his offensive and defensive, prowess. And I say defensive because for once I'm not seeing him completely out of position, but he's been in full Uncle Drew mode at times, going to the basket. But at the same time, why does it take to this point to get you to play this hard, Kyrie?
Yeah, you kind of want him to do the James Harden, where just go ahead and take over and drop 40. He did that with the Toronto game. I mean, the Toronto game, he closed them out, but the Magic game, they lost that game. Tatum missed a shot, and Kyrie's all up in arms because he wanted the ball and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know.
Like I said, it's been a very weird Celtics season in the sense, yes, they did have expectations. LeBron was out of the East. It was a wide open race. You had the best roster on paper, but it necessarily hasn't translated that. And I think a lot of it is internal issues right now to where, the Kyrie leadership thing we touched on, we didn't see Jaylen Brown having his ups and downs that has been having. Jason Tatum, taking some very questionable shots at time to where I secretly think Kobe might have screwed him up a little bit doing those off-season workouts. He made a bad percentage shots.
Is Jason Tatum still untradeable? Would you trade Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis?
Now, I think this is one thing I know I mentioned to you is there Celtic fans were too in love with the unforeseen potential of Jason Tatum because a lot of people look at his ceiling, but not necessarily his basement. I think we said his ceiling was going to be, Tracy McGrady, and his basement was what? Joe Johnson in a down year, something like that.
Ooh, that might have been what you said. I'm pretty sure I asked you one time, what does Jason Tatum do better than Tobias Harris? So
Okay. The reason
I've never been that high.
The reason I bring that up because he's still 20, he still can get better, and if there is an Anthony Davis on the table, Jason Tatum himself said, "I'd trade me too for Anthony Davis." Right now, because of certain contract restraints and how the CBA is organized, you can't have both Kyrie and AD on the same contract on the same team.
Doesn't matter.
Everyone else works out over time, but
Kyrie's leaving anyways.
He's going to Brooklyn. I'm fully convinced, as much as I want him to stay in Boston, I think he just wants to be home in New York City. So more power to you, Kyrie. I want you to do great here in Boston, but if you want to go to New York,
I'd rather him on the Knicks. Speaking of Brooklyn, I love Brooklyn this year. Brooklyn has looked fantastic. Even with the Caris LeVert injury, Brooklyn has looked great. Coach is great. Kenny Atkinson is great.
Me and you had mentioned in our NBA preview, we like Brooklyn as a team that was going to be a tough out, not only night in, night out, but in the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed. And I love what D'Angelo Russell's showing. I love what the entire roster's showing. You had mentioned the LeVert injury, which kind of was a very disturbing image at the time, but Brooklyn continues to grind right along, and they've been a pain for some of these upper echelon teams in the East.
Joe Harris is shooting 47% from 3 on 5 threes a game. Dinwiddie is shooting 37% from 3. Jarrett Allen just had a 2020 game.
Jarrett Allen is a monster on the glass. I know he has a graveyard of guys he's stuffed at the rim, but he's been a good interior presence for the Nets, and I got to give credit to the Nets scouting department. Bringing these guys in and having them play hard night in, night out, that's an institutional thing. So good job, Brooklyn.
D'Angelo Russell is starting to reach his potential. D'Angelo Russell's averaging 19 and 6. Nobody on the team plays more than 30 minutes a night or averages more than 30 minutes a night. I know Russell and Joe Harris are right at the cusp. They're at 29.5 and 29.8, and Dinwiddie's at 28.5 or whatnot. But nobody plays pretty much more than 30 minutes. Everybody gets a share, and everybody contributes. It's crazy.
That was gonna have to be the plan for Brooklyn going forward, because once you sacrifice the draft capital for the middle tier of the 2000s, you were gonna have to find guys that were gonna be on these low risk, high reward signings or trades and kind of convert them into team players. And I think the embodiment of that is the D'Angelo Russell trade. I don't think there was a reason for LA to kind of send him out the way he did, because he was a top 3 pick, not even top 5, top 3. And I think he's shown flashes. They had a pretty good showing against the Celtics the other night, to where they were 1 point up, almost 27, 30 points, and they didn't end up pulling out the win. But the way they had throttled an elite team like Boston was a pretty good showing on Brooklyn's half. And we have to face facts. They're going to be in the playoff chase here for the rest of 2019.
Yeah, I mean, they got D'Angelo Russell because they decided to take Mozgov's contract. He's like, yeah, we have cap room. We'll take Mozgov, goes Russell. Jarrett Allen was a 22nd pick. Caris LeVert was a 20th pick. Joe Harris was a 2nd-round pick, and he was on 3 teams before he made it to the Nets. Spencer Dinwiddie was famously waived by the Bulls, so the Bulls could keep some crappy guy that I don't even remember anymore. And it's not like Dinwiddie was bad too. Dinwiddie balled out in the preseason, and they chose somebody else. I think they chose Cam Payne over Spencer Dinwiddie, but Spencer Dinwiddie was balling in the preseason, and they waived him, and then Dinwiddie ended up going to the Nets and just balling out. It's ridiculous.
You bring up Spencer Dinwiddie, he was going to be considered a combo guard at best, but once he was given a starting position with the Nets, there was no stopping him. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, and then whenever Karis LeVert's come back, and this Dinwiddie, LeVert, and D'Angelo Russell and Joe Harris, like that's a quality guard rotation. Like this is a team. Like if this team started Kevin Durant at the three, like it might be a 4 seed. You know, if this team goes out in free agency and makes the pitch for Kevin Durant and say, look, you can come play with D'Angelo Russell, Joe Harris. You know, they can shoot. You can come play with Dinwiddie. You know, you're gonna get the ball. You're gonna be the number one guy. Like that. That's a good landing spot for Durant. If Durant chooses to try to want his own team, to go to the East and go to the East a little bit easier, and go to a team with a lot of just
I think
individual talent.
if the Knicks don't win the lottery, Brooklyn does become a better spot. But, we'll lead right into that. If the Knicks do win the lottery, we're bringing up New York City basketball. You have the number one overall pick. You have the likes of a Zion Williamson and RJ Barrett waiting for you on deck. If you're the Knicks, who would you pick number one overall?
Um, as of right now, Zion. I would probably take Kristaps and move him to center. I think Kristaps is probably going to be a 5 moving on in his career. I wouldn't play him at the 4. I know they have Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson has a lot of fouling problem. Mitchell Robinson is going to be a good center, but he fouls a little bit too much. I'd probably take Zion right now. I love Jay Morant. Jay Morant, what he's doing right now, Murray. So he had 40, 10, and 5. He's going to be sneaky in play. Nick could use a point guard. He could be a point guard in the future. Can't go wrong with RJ Barrett either, but I probably take Zion 1 and Morant, RJ Barrett are right behind him.
What about Ja Morant? You don't see him?
Morant.
I must have misheard you. My apologies.
Yeah.
I think we're overdue for the Knicks winning a lottery because we need New York basketball to be relevant again. And you have the Nets who are literally grinding away just to be relevant, but the Knicks are without their marquee superstar, probably for without the season. I think they're overdue to win a rigged lottery, don't you think?
85, Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, I think they're overdue. They need a top 5, a top 3 at least. Like, come on, Adam Silver, hook up the New York Knicks once again.
I mean, they ended up with Porzingis at number 4.
I remember me and you talking, during our time at Nike. Like, you would tell me, like, Johnny, you got to check out this kid on YouTube. Like, this guy's European phenom. I'm like, I don't trust European ballers unless they're named Dirk. Like, I'm not sure of the guy. And I bought in quickly on the unicorn. So,
yeah,
wait his comeback. But having Kristaps with one of these Duke superstars come out, ooh.
I mean, Kevin Knox, Frankie. So
you start you have to start clearing this cap space if you want to lure in that Kyrie or KD, right?
I think you do. I think they do have the cap space. I would have to go in.
You have to get rid of the Hardaway contract.
Cantor's a free agent after the season. I think that's $22 million off the books, and Hardaway I think has 2 more years that are like 16 per. There's another big. I know I looked at their roster recently, but I don't remember too specifics of it. But I know it's Cantor's $22 million that's coming off the books. That's going to give them a lot of money, and there's not really anybody else on the roster that makes too much money.
I know they have a lot of like low entry guys, but once they get those 2 that Hardaway and that Enes Kanter contract off the books, I think they'll be good going forward. I think there's buyers for it. I know there's teams that are going to be looking to make a little bit of changes, whether it be to their back end of their starting rotation or a 6th or 7th guy off the bench. I think the Knicks are good to offer those guys. So to make these potential moves happen, this is step 1 or step 2 at least for the Knicks to do. We want New York to be basketball. We want them to be basketball relevant again. This is what they have to do.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in play for Durant.
I think they're already clearly in play for Kyrie. I really think that's a thing.
Yeah, I think Kyrie's going to be in play. I think Durant's going to be in play. I think they should be able to clear cap room to get enough cap room for both of them. So there's a chance that New York Knicks basketball is relevant. Kristaps Porzingis back in from injury, a top 5 pick. plus free agent signing of Kevin Durant and or Kyrie Irving. That's it. Next year they might be looked at as maybe trying to win a championship. Like it could turn around very, very quickly for New York.
I definitely do want to see a game in Madison Square. So once that team's relevant and it coincides with the time I'm on the East Coast, I'll definitely be making that a must-go destination. Let's stay in the East. Let's head up to your team in the North, the Toronto Raptors. Right now, they own the #1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Kawhi Leonard has looked absolutely incredible. And the rest of the supporting cast of Toronto has also stepped up the game as well. Your guy, Pascal Siakam, has actually emerged as one of the top bench players in the NBA this season, someone you've been on the past couple of seasons. But it's been an up and down effort from the Toronto Raptors roster that's gotten them into the #1 seed in the East. What have been your thoughts on the Raptors thus far to this point?
They haven't even been like 100% healthy. Kawhi's not playing back to backs, kinda, and Kyle Lowry has probably not had. Kyle Lowry, if I had a pick in an All-Star game, Kyle Lowry's not on my ballot. Like Kyle Lowry's had a down year, injuries and whatnot, and they're still the #1 seed.
He definitely seemed disinterested in the Celtics game this past night, and I know I don't want to read too much into it, but I don't think that DeMar swap out has affected him too much, but he has had some nights where he's disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry's played 36 out of 47 games. Kawhi's played 36 out of 47 games. But they're still deep. Like OG Anunoby has been in and out of the lineup. Pascal Siakam's probably my front runner for most improved player. He's taking another leap. I like what he's probably going to be at the end of the year. Valanciunas broke his hand like 2 months ago. He's missed like 20 games. So they've been hit with the injury bug, but at the same time, they're the #1 seed, and there's times where they look unstoppable. And I think there's another level that they can get to.
I think once they're fully healthy and fully to go, they are still the team to beat to the East, or excuse me, beat in the East. And that's coming from someone who, watches more Celtics than they should. I always like Toronto's depth. I like having Kawhi as your best player versus having Kyrie as your best player. I think Toronto's better suited to make a deeper run in the playoffs and challenge a Golden State team in the finals. Once they have all their horses going, like you said, once everyone's ready to go, I don't see how you have a better, 1 through 8, 1 through 9 rotation than Toronto, especially when they're playing at home.
So there was the other team that when earlier when we were talking about Bradley Beal, and I said there's a couple of playoff contenders that might be in for Bradley Beal. One team could be the Toronto Raptors.
What would you realistically give up if you're the Raptors, though, to get a Bradley Beal to go alongside a Lowry and a Leonard?
So you would ask for Pascal Siakam. I don't think you part with Pascal Siakam. No way. No way you part with Siakam. But you can part with one of your point guards, either Delon Wright or Fred VanVleet, who's good value. I think those two are talented enough to be starters in the league. But they're both backups right now to Kyle Lowry. I think you can package a Danny Green and an OG Anunoby. I think you can package picks. Parting with OG Anunoby might be a little bit hard to swallow, but you could probably do it if it gets you Bradley Beal back and going into the playoffs and going, Kyle Lowry, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, Serge Ibaka, and Pascal Siakam, and still have firepower off the bench with like CJ Kilometers and Fred VanVleet or your boy Delon Wright. I think like that's a play that could be done, and I think they're on par with the Warriors if they acquire Bradley Beal.
And I think that's Toronto's thing is right now they don't want to mortgage, the bench that they've developed and these guys they've brought in and, have had in their system for 2, 3, 4 years. You've kind of built a pretty good repertoire with what you've had in your system. And you don't want to necessarily send them, 3, maybe 4 assets out for one player in return. Granted, that's an all-star caliber player in a Bradley Beal, but That's assuming the Wizards want to punt on the season. Wouldn't you
From the
want
Wizards, I
to
know.
the Morris brothers? I forget which one is down there. I think they both switch spots.
It's not I think it's Keefe. I think it's Markeef. That's in Washington. I only know that because I picked up Marcus Morris on my fantasy team, and I was like, "Oh, that's the Morris that's in Boston. His name is Marcus." So yeah, I mean, if you're the Wizards, you're stuck with John Wall's contract. You need money. You're hemorrhaging money. You're hemorrhaging losses and whatnot. You ideally you want to get off a Wall's contract. You want to get off Otto's Porter contract, but they're kind of untradeable at this point. You're only going to get Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's the only one that's going to bring assets back. So I mean, I don't think Bradley Beal is unhappy in Washington, but I wouldn't trade him. But like,
that's Washington's only way to kind of move forward from what they've kind of been stuck under, because they thought Wall and Bradley were going to bring them into contention, but unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. And right now, it's Bradley's upside, his age, his contract situation that actually makes him an asset. I think we know what John Wall is going to be. We know what the other Morris brother, and we know what Otto Porter is going to be. There's not much else to Washington that really appeals as an asset right now. So if you're going to sell Beal, you have to sell as high as possible, I think, even if that means trading within your conference.
Yeah, I think so too. But I mean, it's just they're in a no-win situation. It's that John Wall contract is just so bad. You know, the Otto Porter contract is just so bad. Like I don't understand how that happened. Like at the time, you think, oh yeah, Otto Porter, let's give this guy $25 million. We have Otto Porter, we have Bradley Beal, we have John Wall. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight for a playoff spot. Things can happen in the playoffs. LeBron's out of the Eastern Conference, sure, but at the end of the LeBron's gone, sure. Now Boston's yeah, but Milwaukee, you don't kind of trust them in the playoffs because they don't got that second star. Chris Middleton's good, sure. Giannis might be the MVP, but yeah. And then Toronto. I mean, Toronto with not having or trading DeMar and not having LeBron here in the conference anymore, and getting that LeBron sized hole, black hole that's been keeping him down. Now he's gone. Maybe Toronto's the one. If you're watching, you were like, oh, well, we have a chance, but now I mean, you're just stuck with so much money and just nowhere to go with the roster. Like it's just so bad to be a Washington Wizards fan right now.
There really hasn't been much to look forward to for the Wizards since Isaiah had a career. Well, actually, his last career moment was against the Wizards in the playoffs. But let's transition into the Milwaukee Bucks. You had just mentioned Giannis right here, and right now he's your MVP. Right now, the Bucks are sitting in second place in the Eastern Conference right now, and Giannis has definitely taken that leap. We were looking for him to complete his game, and he's shown stellar results thus far, and he's still as freaky as always.
He's averaging 26, 13, and 6. As a power forward for the number 2 team in the East, as the number 1 guy, he leads the league in dunks. He's at a Shaq level rate of dunks, but he's just not as big as Shaq. Like it's ridiculous, like what he does on the floor. And, like that the difference between him and like Ben Simmons, and why Giannis can average 26 and Ben Simmons can, have trouble at times scoring, is Giannis is actually a willing shooter. He's not that bad of a shooter. He's still shooting a horrible percent from 3. Last I checked, it was like under 20%. He was at like 18%. That's horrible, sure, but Giannis has still made more threes this season than Ben Simmons has taken in his career, and that's taken in his career dating back to college and high school and whatnot. So, I mean, Giannis is my MVP pick. He was my MVP pick before the season. He's my MVP pick right now. James Harden, sure, this hot stretch is amazing, but I think it's going to cool off, and Giannis has just been steady.
Now, with the Bucks being in the position that they're in, they have a superstar in Giannis. They have the second guy in Chris Middleton. Who needs to step as as the third contributor on the Bucks to kind of make them a relative contender to a Toronto, to a Boston, and actually make a legitimate threat at the finals.
I think they're getting a lot of production from Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon has missed 2 free throws the whole season. I want to say no, it's not 2 free throws. I think he's missed 5 free throws the whole season. He's at like 98%, and he's on pace to break Jose Calderon's free throw percentage record. He's shooting 50, 40, 90. That's a vaunted club. 50, 40, 90. That's Steph. That's Kevin Durant. That's Larry Bird, Dirk, Steve Nash. That's a vaunted club, 50, 40, 90. And Malcolm Brogdon is currently 50, 40, 90. Brogdon stepped up. Eric Bledsoe, when he wants to play and he's motivated and he's out there getting after it on defense, is crazy. Brook Lopez is shooting more threes, made more threes, and has made like a higher percentage than Klay Thompson this season.
Splash Mountain.
Yeah, the team is good. I think
the Chris Middleton, they got a much better coach.
Yeah, the coach is a lot better. And Giannis being the one, and then like rotating between, Bledsoe, Brogdon, and Middleton all chipping in 15 points here or there, and having Brook Lopez, splashing I think they're going to be a really tough out in the playoffs.
I think once they actually get a crack at a Philly or a Boston, I think they're good enough to finally beat them this year, because when I look at the Milwaukee-Boston series from last year, I think coaching had everything to do with Milwaukee not advancing, because everything was in line for Milwaukee to go to the second round. But with Giannis being better this year and having, Coach Bud at the helm now, I think there is a very possible lane for Milwaukee to run through the East and be in the finals. It's possible.
Yeah, they're never going to be outgunned, because when you put them up against every player in the East, who's got the best player in the series? Giannis is the number one answer. I know him versus the 76ers, Joel Embiid is going to put up as much as what Giannis, the worth between Joel and Giannis to a series is kind of even, and Kawhi is kind of even. But like against like Boston, I don't think Kyrie is worth more to the series than what Giannis is. So I think Giannis is hands down the best player. Same thing with like the Pacers. I know the Pacers had a really good year. I think they're currently the 3 seed, and Oladipo is just not as good as Giannis. Giannis is the best player in that series. So they have that advantage where Giannis is going to be the best player in literally every series that you play until you get to the finals.
I think there's no reason for Milwaukee not to make it, assuming performance and health doesn't taper off the way it does, because the next team we're going to talk about, the Philly 76ers, we know they have Joel Embiid, they have Ben Simmons, they acquired Jimmy Butler, earlier December, but it's been mixed results thus far, and now we're starting to get reports of chemistry and coach issues with Jimmy Butler yet again. Jimmy is an all-star caliber player. He's been on the Olympic teams. He's been on the all-star teams. He's regarded as one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Is this really a Jimmy Butler problem going forward, that we keep hearing stories about problems with coaches and other players?
It's always a Jimmy Butler problem. There was a problem in Chicago. He didn't mesh with D Rose. He didn't mesh with the young players when they got rid of D Rose. He went to Minnesota. After a year, he didn't mesh with Wiggins. He didn't mesh with Towns. Now he's in Philly, and he's not meshing with what they want to do on the offense. Jimmy Butler is a really good player, but Jimmy Butler is not a 1A. Jimmy Butler is more of a 2. Jimmy Butler is a 1B, a sidekick, a 2. And
a player that's always been a 1 in any situation he's been in, because Jimmy Butler now mind you, I say felt. He felt he was the 1 in Chicago, even though it was a rehabilitating D Rose. He felt he was the 1 when he got traded to Minnesota. He feels as if he should be the 1 in Philly, but it's just not going that way. And we look at Jimmy Butler's raw talent. We think it's there. We think that's who he's going to be, but it's not showing up yet.
Jimmy's just been frustrating. You know, as a Bulls fan, and and living through Jimmy Butler. You know, do I miss him? Yes, a lot. You know, he's a good player, but it's just, he's there's just issues.
Now, when you say issues, it's not on the court issues. It's always off the court. Like Jimmy Butler always feels he's being challenged. Like Jimmy, it's not that serious, dude.
Jimmy, just chill a little bit.
Like I don't want to be the one to point it out because on paper, Philadelphia would be the team to beat in the East when you have a Simmons, you have a Butler, you have a Redick, you have a Joel Embiid, and a decent supporting cast. It's all there.
Joel Embiid's playing at an MVP level, and he's probably going to be on a third-team NBA, All NBA, which is kind of crazy.
And Joel was having an incredible season last year, and we put him on first-team All NBA. We want him to start in the All-Star game. He did start in the All-Star game, and now this year it's just like,
He's even better this year than last year, but he's still going to finish third-team All NBA.
Complication. Like we were so impressed that he was just healthy, and now his general performance is what's expected out of him now.
Speaking of all NBA, while we start to wind down and wrap up, do you think LeBron makes third team All NBA? Because right now, All NBA wise, front court, my center is Jokic, and then Giannis and Durant are my two forwards. And then when you go to the second team, Anthony Davis is the center, and then Kawhi. And then it's kind of a toss-up between Paul George and LeBron. And depending on how much more games LeBron misses, Paul George has had an outstanding season this year. Like, there's an argument where Paul George is on second-team NBA with Kawhi, and LeBron scoots all the way down to third-team All-NBA, which probably hasn't happened since he was a rookie.
We questioned Paul George going back to the Lakers when he made his decision when we did our free agency pod, and right now he's making it look like the smart decision because he's kind of picked up where he should have left off when he initially left Indiana. And we've also seen a change in Russell Westbrook's game because he's been not as shooting happy, but he's deferring to Paul George in a little bit more of a consistent situation to where Paul George is now able to flourish to his full potential. So I've liked what I've seen out of Paul George. I've liked it a lot.
What Russell Westbrook might not even make my All NBA team, and he's averaging a triple-double.
As bad as it sounds, I think Russell Westbrook has either shot his way out of All NBA or just turned it over because he's gotten too loose in his gameplay. And yeah, the triple-double metrics are great to look at. It does look good in the stat sheet, but I'm just not seeing on a night-to-night basis. Like, yeah, you're attempting, I think it was when they played the Lakers the other night, he attempted 15, 18 three-pointers alone and still didn't make half of those.
Yeah, like he
still gets too happy pulling the trigger with his shooting, so
the media has done a complete 180 on Russ and his shooting woes. Like, sure, you're averaging a triple-double again. That's crazy, but that's not the end-all be-all. He's like single-handedly made like triple-doubles like non-amazing.
It's kind of become expected almost because he puts them up with ease because either it's a three-pointer to Paul George or it's an easy put-in for, Steven Adams or is it Jabari Grant?
Jeremy
Grant, excuse me. My apologies to Jabari.
Yeah, if we talk about All NBA guards, like I think Harden and Curry are locked in, and then I think Dame and Kyrie are locked in as a two team, and then you get down to like kind of, do you want to put Ben Simmons, Kemba? I think Kemba probably deserves to be a third team All NBA, which would then actually qualify him for the Supermax, which Charlotte would then have to like figure out if they want to pay Kemba Walker $200 million at 29 for 5 more years, which is going to be a crazy amount. So we'll see with that.
Don't let Kemba hit the open market. That's all I have to say. I know you're a huge fan of Kemba Walker. I know you love how he plays. Don't let this man get to the open market.
True, but I mean, do you want to pay $200 million for Kemba Walker?
Almost, if you're Charlotte, you almost have to. You don't have a better choice. You have a lot of these young, unproven guys. You have some draft picks that haven't picked, planned out to what you want them to. I'm looking at you, Frank Kaminsky. I'm looking at you, Malik Monk. Or excuse me. Yeah, Malik Monk.
Yeah, Malik Monk.
Our name today. And the reason I put that out is Charlotte, you need a direction. You need a bona fide superstar. You need the guy you look to. You have it in Kemba Walker. Pay him for what he's kind of sacrificed to get you to this point. And I think you can start kind of building off of that, because for as many of the draft misses and the free agent misses you've had to this point, Kemba is the one you got right. And I don't think that's the one you kind of give up on.
Yeah, going back through their drafting, we did that once a couple of weeks ago, looking back at the draft history, and it was kind of disappointing to see what and who they actually went after and drafted instead of who was on the table. Pretty much, there's
what, two of the Zellers? I know they've taken at least one Zeller.
Cody.
Yeah, they've just taken Cody. Then they took Frank the year after. Then they took Malik Monk. I believe there was
they took Monk with Donovan Mitchell still on the board. That's recently. Donovan Mitchell right now starting with Kemba. That would have been a dangerous backcourt, but I digress.
Hindsight always looks painful. In
your boy Noah Vonleh, top 10.
Noah Vonleh right now putting in minutes and putting up numbers for the Knicks, which makes no sense because he's still somehow only 26. But I swear
he's 23. He's 23. He's averaging like 8 and 10 or 8 and 8. I think he's averaging like 8 and 8 because I picked him up in fantasy one week because I needed like a backup center, and he was like, "Oh, Noah Vonleh getting rebounds. All right."
Next note I want to go over. Do you have Luka on any of your All NBA teams?
Maybe if he was a guard, he might make third team All NBA, but I think right now it's my forwards. So my centers are kind of a lock. It's Embiid, Jokic, and Davis are your three centers, and that means Towns doesn't make an All NBA, which is crazy because Towns has actually been balling. And your forwards kind of pick themselves. You got LeBron, Paul George, Kawhi, Kevin Durant, Giannis, and that's 5 of the 6 spots. So you have one more spot for forward. I think I put Blake Griffin. I think Blake Griffin has been a really good player this season. I don't want to say a great player. He's going to be an all-star. He's had a good season. You don't really have much to show from Detroit, but I think Blake Griffin is the best player in Detroit. They're currently scheduled to make the playoffs, or they're on pace to make the playoffs. I think he's had a better season than Luka. If Luka was a guard, I probably don't put him on the third team if he was a guard. And I think, Ben Simmons, I think Westbrook maybe even over Luka as well. That third team is Kemba and another guard that I haven't figured out yet. Like Bradley Beal probably deserves a shout, but Washington, no, it's not Bradley Beal's fault that Washington is as bad as they are. And since John Wall has been hurt, Bradley Beal has been really, really good. And I think Bradley Beal might be my third team All NBA guard. It might be Bradley Beal and Kemba, but it's I don't know. I digress. I don't really have like a big.
I was gonna say this just goes to show where we're holding Luka right now, because he's outplayed expectations thus far. He's shown us maturity with his game, especially
not mine. It hasn't outplayed my expectations.
I didn't set the bar that high for Luka because I'm always a little hesitant on European prospects that especially played against very questionable competition. But
Luka, the competition. All right, if I go on a tangent right now, all right, DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 pick, and he got bounced in the first round. I don't even remember the college he got bounced out. He bounced to Trae Young, the guy that was the swap for Luka Doncic. Trae Young got bounced by Rhode Island in the round of 64. He didn't get out the first round, and how are you going to question Luka Doncic competition when he was the EuroLeague MVP, Eurobasket MVP, at 19 playing against grown men, while Trae Young is in college getting bounced out in the round of 64 by Rhode Island? I don't understand that. Rhode Island is not going to send a player to the NBA.
So what you're saying is the Kings are going to rue the day they made this trade. Like this could be one of the top 5 draft day misses for the Sacramento Kings.
No, not the Kings. The Hawks. The Hawks absolutely missed Luka.
I don't know why I said Kings. Like usually when I think of draft day blunders, I think of the Kings. My apologies to the Kings.
Yeah, well,
haven't been half bad. Like, give
And
credit to them. They haven't been terrible. They've been watchable.
yeah, the Hawks. I mean, John Collins has been really good this season. John Collins is averaging like 18 and 10. He's taking like 2 threes a game, and he's like 35% from three. Like John Collins is emerged as like a sneaky guy that's going to make an all-star team in the next year or two. Like John Collins is really good, but then you have Trae Young shooting 35-foot threes, and he's shooting like worse than Lonzo from three. Like that's not what you want.
It's funny you bring up Lonzo. I think me and you shared the stat. His free throw shooting has gone worse year by year. So like his high school is worse than his college, and now his college is worse than his, pro. And then I think his traveling team was somewhere mixed in there.
Yeah, Steph Curry has a better 3-point percentage than Lonzo has a better free throw percentage. James Harden has a better percentage shooting step back threes than Lonzo has at the free throw line. So I mean,
numbers don't lie, man. Did we miss anything? I know it's been like 2 months worth of NBA news, and there's always something happening every night. What other shenanigans did we miss?
Bulls tank season, full effect. Number 1 pick incoming.
Dying for Zion.
Yep. Fake superstar Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns being the only team. I'm not leaving. This is the hill I'm gonna die on. Fake superstar Devin Booker. Like,
you're dying on the fake superstar you're dying on the hill of fake superstar Devin Booker.
Since the offseason, like
I'm gonna die on the hill that the Parks and Recs is funnier than The Office.
Depending on what season. I would take The Office as a whole, but after Michael Scott leaves, it kind of goes downhill. So like like as a 1 season prime, like a peak Office versus peak Parks and Rec, I think is more close. But as in like The Office has a worse floor than Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec never had like a really low floor.
They definitely built themselves up because they definitely started slow with season 1 and 2, but once it kicked up season 3, the Parks and Rec never really had to look back. And like you said, once Carell left, it was just tough sledding for The Office. I feel like we've kind of touched on the big points. We still have trade season to come upon us. Like we said, that's in early February, so we just got to see who kind of loses patience first. Do you think Portland blows it up? When do they?
I don't. If they blow it up, it's CJ McCollum for somebody. CJ McCollum for Aaron Gordon is one of the trades that like I've secretly been like wanting to happen because I think like CJ McCollum and Aaron Gordon will both be better from that. The trading a guard for like a forward, like CJ McCollum for Tobias Harris is not something that makes sense for both teams, but like would make sense in like 2K. Like CJ McCollum would probably have like a better, well, maybe, I don't know. Doc loves Avery Bradley and he's going to play Avery Bradley until death. But a CJ McCollum, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander backcourt would probably be.
You bring up the Clippers, who are actually right now in a playoff spot there. I believe they're number 5 or number 4. Right now they're in the playoff mix and they're actually playing good basketball, getting absolutely no press because it's the Clippers.
Tobias Harris should make an all-star team.
I saw him play in person. It's funny. I'm going to tell a story. I went to a Clippers game actually on purpose. I spent all of $14 on that ticket, and it was by far the weirdest experience I've had at a pro basketball event because there was minimal energy in the building. Everyone that was there wanted to root for D Wade for his last visit. And I just felt like there was no like excitement. As weird as it sounds, like nobody cared like what was going on or what was at stake. And I'm thinking to myself, this is a top 16 team in the NBA. Like this team might be in the playoff hunt all the way until the last week or 2 weeks. Nobody cares.
Yeah, they have really good players. Lou Williams is a spark plug who has a chance to go for 40. On a good night. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a rookie that I loved coming out, and he's shown glimpses, and he's really trying to put it all together. Tobias Harris is going to get paid this offseason. He's going to get a max for somebody, and he deserves it. And he deserves to make an all-star team this year. Harrell is ridiculously skilled as a big man, undersized, sure, but I love Harrell's game.
tries. He's always bringing effort to every play. They have Boban, who has the best field goal percentage in NBA history.
Did you see Bomb in the John Wick 3 trailer?
He gets killed by a book.
Yeah, he got
$5 just for that alone.
he
John killed somebody with a book.
he kicked Keanu Reeves like halfway through the screen, and then Keanu Reeves curve stomps him with a book. But that'll be nice to see. That'll be nice to see Boban.
It's gonna be a great, it's gonna be a great cinema flick. Regardless, I mean, John Wick, probably one of the most unpredictable cinema trilogies of the past 20 years. Like, who would have thought after the first movie you get 2 more after this? And props to Keanu Reeves for making a second career out of this.
Just off topic cameos. Remember Vladimir Kozlov from WWE?
Yeah. He challenged for the WWE title a couple times. Like, he got squashed every single time, but he was like an imposing figure.
Yeah, remember he was undefeated for like a couple months, and he had like a victory over the Undertaker. Long story short, Vladimir Kozlov's in season 2 of The Punisher.
Oh,
yeah, so just random cameos, So was Keith Jardine. They were in the same scene. Keith Jardine and like Vladimir Kozlov just appeared on my scene. Now it was my screen. I was just like,
that's
Kozlov
right.
and Jardine, real cool.
That's right up there with the guy who played Trevor in GTA 5, randomly showing up in Better Call Saul. Little did I know the guy that played Trevor in GTA 5 was almost an exact copy of the actual voice actor, not only voice-wise, but look-wise as well. So that's something that, like I said, we're off tangent right now. It caught my eye.
Yep, about time to bid everybody adieu. Wrap up another episode of the Bleacher Preacher podcast here on the Bleacher Preacher Network.
We can do this a little more often.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Trade season coming up.
I know the NBA is overly dramatic. Did we miss anything?
Probably not.
Regardless, so right now it's January 19th. We're about 2.5 weeks from the trade deadline. Teams are starting to separate themselves into playoff position. There might be an egregious trade. We could have another outright blowout sale like the Cavs did last offseason. So stay tuned. You never know what could happen. For myself, thank you guys for joining in. I know we've been long overdue. Thank you for joining us once again for another episode of the Bleacher Preacher podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Jonathan_R. The show's on Twitter and Instagram at BleachPreachPod. You can follow Rob.
Rob_BPP on every major platform.
Great retweets, great shared material. And if you ever need a good link for something that you might not necessarily want to pay for, Rob's your guy.
If you need a stream, just let me know. I'll DM you.
We got you. Don't worry about it. If you want to watch something without paying for it, we're your guy. FBI, please don't shut us down, please. I just got this worrying. It's not under our credit card. JK, we're in good standing. Just real quick, Rob, for tomorrow, we have the AFC-NFC Championship game. Who's your Super Bowl matchup?
I don't know who my Super Bowl matchup is, but my parlay is the Chiefs and the Saints.
Sounds like a good way to make money, if you ask me. So, once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to try and churn out episodes for you more often. We do have the NFL Championship games coming up Sunday. We're recording this on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, depending on whenever you get into it. So we'll probably be hitting you guys with another Super Bowl preview. Like I said, NBA trade deadline less than 2 weeks away. We got am I missing something? Me and Roncal will probably talk hockey at some point. So for all you Vegas Golden Knight fans or guys that just want your hockey news, we will be getting to you at some point in the future. Just a personal update. I'm still alive and thriving in San Diego. I turned 29. I haven't fallen apart yet. I'm having my midlife crisis, so I'm hanging in there as best I can. And with that all being said, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you again once more. That's the third, fourth time. And we'll see you on the next episode of Bleacher Preachers podcast.
Peace.